How you do, cousins? It's old Rusty down here at the Bargain Warehouse, and we have an exciting video for you today. We're going to be doing two different parts today. First part is jewelry. We bought into a very large collection recently, and we want to talk all about it and show you a few things. We also want to talk about crack, something that I'm real excited about. I've been using crack for years. And it's been really great for my business. I can't even remember a time when I wasn't using crack, sometimes daily. And I want to tell you all about that and how you can use it too, and it can transform your business and your life. And then secondly, we're going to look at another buyout of an antique store that we did in the same week, if you can believe it. It's crazy. Jewelry, antiques, and crack. Lots of my favorite things. Right, folks, what you're looking at here is the first section of a large privately owned jewelry collection buyout that I'm doing. This was the first load of probably between 4 and 6 more that I'll end up buying. This is a combination, I would say probably 70% costume jewelry, 30% fine jewelry. So there is some silver, very little gold, some gold-filled stuff. Otherwise, it's mostly branded for the most part, which is nice. Costume jewelry. Now, I went through yesterday and I did some sorting. And so what we have in this first lot is primarily Monet and Trifari costume jewelry. And I'm going to show you how I separated these out and how I'm going to list them. I'm on this large table today and I've put a piece of fabric. Honestly, it's starting to get scuffed up. I should probably invest in another nicer piece because I'd love it for it to all be uniform. But this is what I do. I like to have a black or a dark background because the contrast of the gold tone and the silver tones really works well for pictures off of this. I don't use a light box. I used to. I started not using it and I just gave it away. This serves my purposes fine. So I've separated these out into similar brands and types. So I'll have a listing of just Monet only necklaces, Monet only earrings, Monet only bracelets, the same for Trifari and the others. So let's get started. All right, so as you can see, I got stuff in this tub, and this is what I'm looking at jewelry-wise. So far, I'm starting to sort it out. Everything you're looking at here is sterling silver, okay? I think most of this is costume stuff. We got a variety of precious and costume over here, and then we have other things. Now, so far, I'm looking through here. This is stuff that is gold-filled. This is an I don't know. This is definitely gold so far. And then back here, everything here is Monet costume jewelry, already bagged and sorted. Over here's Avon. Over here's some spoons. And then this is all Crown Trifari and Trifari stuff. So I'm already in this. I'm very excited about what I'm going to find. I've already found some gold, found a ton of sterling silver. I'm still getting into it. I'm going to get some of this more sorted. And then I want to tell you something that's very dear to my heart, and that is crack. All right, without further ado, we're going to talk just for a little while about crack. This is a tool that I made for myself and use regularly when I'm inspecting jewelry to determine the value of something. And I'm going to go over it. This is an acronym, and this is a special edition tip series for you guys. So we're going to dive right into this. Be ready to take notes because I'm going to hit you with a lot of information here. If you use this tool, I almost guarantee you're going to be in a better shape to know whether or not a piece of jewelry you have is of good quality and valuable. Let's check it out. Cousins, let's get right into it today. We're talking about crack, one of my favorite things to talk about and use on a regular basis. So here we are. I got a variety of pieces of jewelry here for us to go over as we go through this. So the first word in crack is quality. Quality. So when you're inspecting a piece of jewelry, one of the things you need to be looking at is what is the quality of the piece. What do I mean by that? Well, Rusty, you say, tell me more. Well, sure. What I first want to say is aesthetic appeal. Is it an attractive piece or is it an ugly piece? Everyone has different preferences, but you can typically tell by something if it looks real kind of bedazzled and sparkly and cheap looking. You can usually tell by looking at something whether it has authentic stones or if it's plastic or rhinestones. Once you start looking at things more regularly, there's other things you can inspect. So, for example, this piece here, which is a little bit of lesser value. It's not the cheapest thing out there. As you can see, it says 18K HGE, which is gold electroplated. So it has the tiniest bit of 18 karat gold electroplated on the outside of what is otherwise a cheap alloy. And you can see that these stones have little prongs, but if I were to just take my thumbnail, look at that, I can just pull that little prong up super easily. I could keep doing this on all of these, and within just a couple of moments, I could pop this little stone out of there if I wanted to, okay? And you can see, like, this is a cheaper piece of jewelry for that reason, okay? So, that's one of the things you're looking at here is, what is it attractive? Is it nice? I mean, this is a cute little piece. I mean, it's got a little flare here, but you can tell that the stones are not well secured in this piece. And for that reason, I can tell you, number one, that these are not going to be anything other than rhinestones or pieces of glass or plastic. And then also on the back, if you look at this, you'll see that they are metal all over the back. So they're not open. With authentic gemstones, you're going to want to have light pass through it so that you can see the hue and the saturation of the color. But with stones that are cheap or that they are cheaply manufactured, or you're not intended to see through the stone, you're just going to see the color of whatever they made it to be like, they will usually have metal on the back, and they will either be very superficially placed like these prongs, or they'll be glued into place. Okay, so that's one thing. Jewels or rhinestones, are these the stones that are inside of a piece of jewelry? Can you tell if they are authentic gemstones or if they are just cheap glass or plastic? Now, if you are not inspecting jewelry often, it's very difficult to tell that until you've held. I mean, old Rusty has held thousands upon thousands of pieces of jewelry in just the last few years alone. And I can tell you that I'm pretty good at telling by looking at stuff. However, there are pieces that will trick you. So this one, for example, now this is outside of inspecting the inside to see if there are any marks or whatever, but just simply looking at the piece, it is attractive. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stones. They're graduated, so you start with smaller, you get bigger in the center there. It's a nice silver tone color. And they look quite sparkly. If you turn it over and you look, you'll see that there are holes in the back. Okay, so light is passing through these stones. Now, that's fine. These are not colored stones, and so no one would need to put anything on the back of them to reflect light back if they were, say, wanting to make a piece of plastic look like a certain color. But are they jewels or are they gemstones? In general, if they're gemstones, if they're nicer jewels, then it's probably a nicer piece of jewelry. It kind of stands to reason. If they are plastic or just glass, then likely it's a piece of costume jewelry. So that's the stones part. This particular ring, the reason I'm showing this is that these stones, I've tested them. They are not diamonds. So they're either cubic zirconia or they are glass or something like that. It's a heavy enough piece that these are probably glass or some sort of harder stone, but not diamond. But if you inspect the inside, you'll notice as I spin it around here, there is nothing marked on the inside. Now, if this were gold or silver, it would have a mark. almost always. The other thing is, I can tell because I've held lots of rings that the weight of this is not quite heavy enough for it to be gold. Gold is pretty heavy. It also, it just feels in the fingers. It just kind of feels a little cheaper, right? So it's not marked as a precious or semi-precious metal. The stones are not diamonds. And so what we have here is just an attractive looking piece of costume jewelry. So this, if just on someone's finger, might pass off as a very nice piece of jewelry. And I would say it is pretty nice. It's not the cheapest out there, but because it's not authentic, like valuable gemstones, and because it's not made of a precious metal, this would go into the tier of lower quality jewelry of what I have sitting here for you to see today. All right, we've talked about quality. Is it attractive? Does it have precious or semi-precious gemstones? Does it have precious or semi-precious metals? What is the quality of the items, the ingredients that are making this piece? That's one thing to look at. The next part in crack is rarity. That's the R, okay? And what do I mean by rarity? Well, I mean, is this a piece of jewelry that is unique? Is it fairly common? Now, this is a piece of jewelry, for example. It's a bracelet. It's got little pieces of shell, okay, on here. It's kind of a pinkish white color. And then you have one of these, I don't know, I can't remember what, like a barrel clasp or something like that, where it's a screw-in thing, okay, with a couple of little hoops on either side. They ran a piece of metal that's got a plastic coating on it through the beads. They twirled it around and they put these little things, they pinched it in, and then that's how they made it. Okay, so it is not an adjustable bracelet. So it's pretty simple, okay? It's a simple design. It's just one strand with a bunch of similar colored beads on it, and you put it in. Now, I have come across so many of these, folks. I mean, anytime you go to any sort of beach town, into any sort of those cheaper touristy places where they have t-shirts from the town or little pieces of jewelry, and all up and down every coast of every country, you're going to find things like this. Okay, this is incredibly common. It is not unique. So the rarity of this is like a 0 out of 100. It's not rare. It's super common. Okay. But then you move over to something like, say, this. So you can see this. This is got a little bit more going on, as you can tell. It's not the same type of a bracelet, so it doesn't have beads. It's made solidly of metal. You can see it has a unique clasp here. So first of all, we've got this little part here that needs to be detached. And then you have a place here to press, and then you pull out this part here. And you can see we have a nice long flat, and it's a fairly complicated braided bracelet. You can see we've got all these different components here in the center of this flat band, and then you can see the woven knots on the edge of this. It's quite intricate, quite complex. The way that has been made, the design of it, the fact that it has a clasp that has a couple of different components to open and close it, and it's got this attractive kind of goldish shine. On top of that, folks, if you open it up, down here on the inside of this clasp by my thumbnail, it says rolled gold. I don't know if you can see that. Rolled gold 10-000. And then it says Germany over on this other side. So this is a fairly old piece, folks. It is gold plated, but not solid gold. And I've only come across in the wild a handful of these flat bracelets like this. About 3 months ago, old Rusty bought one that looked similar to this, although it had sort of an etched design of flowers, a floral motif on here. I paid $12 for it, and I sold it in a week for $1,313. You can see that on one of our recent videos. I talk about that, and I show that sale from eBay. But this, folks, is a less common piece of jewelry. If you saw this and you really looked at it and inspected it, you'd think to yourself, I would suspect that this is a type of piece that you're not going to come across all that often every day. I might come across something like this almost every day in thrift stores and things like that, but not this one. So rarity. Does it stand alone? Okay, this is another thing. Does it stand alone as its own piece, or is it a part of a set? Is it a limited edition? This is a part of the rarity. Is it common or is it unique? Does the maker of it still exist? Are they still in business? Is it a sought-after brand? Did the maker produce a lot of jewelry, or was it a boutique thing? These are all questions you have to ask yourself, and when you're doing your research on the rarity of an item. So you first want to inspect it and see, okay, how well is it made? What's the quality of this? That's the quality, the rarity. Is this common? Is it unique? If you go through those two things, you're well on your way to figuring out if something is going to be worth what the price is asking for. All right, folks, now we're getting into the next component, which is age for crack. We've gone QR, now we're at A, age. What is the age of the piece? Or can you determine the age or roughly the time period of the piece? That's a really good question, and this is also something that takes a variety of years of experience, usually to get a good idea of in the field. But now that we have handy cell phones and things that we can look things up in our pockets at all times, maybe you'll be able to do it while you're out. So the biggest question is this a brand new looking piece, or does this look like it's from a particular time period or an older piece? So I'm going to pull up a couple of these. Well, that thing popped out of there. A couple of these here to show you, and we're going to talk about kind of the looks of these. Now, all right, we're going to start off here with this right here. Okay, I've seen a lot of bracelets like this. You can see it has the same type of side little parts that clip onto these little buttons here, and then you push this pops out. Here you have it. This is what they a lot of times people call tennis bracelets. Okay, on the bottom here it says PD. So this is actually made of a metal called palladium, which you don't see all that often. It's got some gold, you know, kind of like a gold plating on this as well. But these are synthetic sapphires. Okay, and then small diamonds. So this is not a terribly valuable piece. It's probably a couple $100 on eBay. They are sapphires, although they're lab created, and the diamonds are probably the same thing. These are not like the most popular style of thing to wear, but these were very popular in like the 80s and the 90s. Coming out. And so I know, because of the fact that these are, you know, the style, the way it looks, the clasp itself, and that these are synthetic stones. And part of the way I know that is because the color and the hue and the saturation is quite uniform. The size is quite uniform, and they don't have hardly any inclusions. So to find this quality of a sapphire, this many, in a bracelet with no inclusions would be several thousands of dollars, and I just don't believe it. You know, I just don't think that that's what this is. I think that these are synthetic. And so I can date this probably within the last, let's call it 40 years or so, I believe that this was made, okay? But then you pull something out like this, which is a 14 karat gold, rose gold, emerald ring. It has 11 emeralds in it. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the side, 8, 9, 10, and then the big one in the middle, 11. Let's look at the back. Okay, good. So there are holes in the back. It's allowing light to shine through this so that you can actually see the hue, the natural hue of the stones. Okay, now we've got prong settings on these small ones, but these are not superficial prong settings. These are really hard. I can't pull on these. I can't pull those off if I wanted to, because gold is quite hard. It's quite a bit harder than silver, and a lot of these other alloys are a lot softer. And so what we have here is a smallish ring, and you can even see a little bit of a nick there on the side. This has been resized at one point in time. I believe that it's probably been made smaller rather than larger. And if I put it on, my pinky finger here is about a 6.5, and this is barely getting up on my knuckle. So this is probably about a 5 to a 5.5 size, which is pretty small for a female. And what they did was they probably cut this right down here at the bottom. This is how you do when you size it. They cut it down in the middle. If you were gonna say make it larger, you would cut it, you would put it on a mandrel, and you would open it up, and then you would cut out another piece of gold, same carat, and you would stick it in there, and then you would solder that, then then polish it up, and then you'd be fine. The opposite is true when you make it smaller. You cut a section out of it, and then you pinch it shut, and then you solder those together. And so it looks like they did that here. They just didn't get enough solder on the edge, and so you still have those little bumps right there. Anyhow, you can see in the middle, this larger stone is not even prong set. It's got a bevel around it. So they had to have a setting on the top portion here that the stone was made specifically to set in there, and then the jeweler went around the edge with a device that vibrates really hard metal, and they basically pounded that thing around there. You have to be very delicate though, so you don't crack the stone. So it's difficult. But this type of a ring, I've never seen one that looked like this before. So it's unique, right? The quality is quite nice. There's a lot of work that went into the design of this. I don't know how rare it is, but I can tell you I've never seen one, and I've seen thousands of pieces of jewelry, fine jewelry, and and lots of other places too. So I'd say it's probably quite unique. And I don't know of any makers. This is not a style, right, that's like popular right now. This looks quite old. And so the age of this, I believe, is quite a bit older. We're talking probably, 1960s would be about the latest, but it's probably older than that. It's probably from the 30s or the 40s, okay? All right, now we're going to look at these. These are a little bit different. These are a pair of 14 karat gold cufflinks, and these cufflinks have synthetic alexandrite. And the cool thing about alexandrite is that they're color changing. If you put different types of light on them, they have different color. Now, although alexandrite was first discovered in the 1830s in Russia, they really didn't hit the market widely until quite a bit later. Now, the first known synthetic alexandrite, I think, was made as early as the 1920s, but more popularly like in the 1950s and 1960s. And so these, I don't believe, I could date these from about 1920 till now. You can see this, it's very well made. Again, the stone is set down in the metal. You're not going to pop that puppy out. They've got a really nice uniform look to them. They're basically exactly the same size, which is and the same color, which is why another kind of indication that these are synthetic. Then if you turn it over here on one of these sides, there you go, right there, it says, there it is, 14K. Okay, so this is 14 karat gold. These are newer. I think that these are probably, well, I don't know exactly how new they are, but I would guess that they're probably from the last 20 to 30 years, but certainly within the last 100 years, as well as, this bracelet here. Okay, so you may not be able to date them precisely, but if you know what generation or style that they're from, that can help you. Like if you know the time when Art Deco stuff was made, the time when Art Nouveau stuff was made, mid-century stuff is from like the 1960s, 50s, and 60s. And so that kind of thing will help you date stuff if it fits into the style that's common at a certain time period. All right, crack. We're moving on with crack. More and more of it. Quality, rarity, age. So again, age. Is it vintage? Is it antique? Is it 100 years old or older? Is it from a certain time period? Art Deco, Art Nouveau, mid-century, modern. Remember that about every 100 years, the interest in a particular style seems to skyrocket. So right now we're in 2023, and for the last couple of years, the 1920s era fashion, as far as jewelry and the clothing that we wear, is really hot right now, and that's because it's about 100 years since then. In about 10 years, in the next 10 years, we're going to move over to the 1930s and 1940s. So prepare yourself, folks. This is a beautiful little bracelet here. You can see that these have this. All of this shiny part is actually stones. I don't know exactly how many stones are in this, but it's a lot. But if you look at the bottom, you can see that there are no holes underneath. So these stones that are in here are glued into place. Okay, they've been glued down. So that's an indication that these aren't diamonds, first of all. These aren't precious gemstones because they're not too concerned about them falling out. They just want it to appear nice. They don't The craftsmanship is not really matching the look of it. See what I'm saying? And you can see how these are set in individual links. These links would have been made in molds with little holes in them. And when the metal was done and they fitted these together, they went through and they popped these little stones in, which are probably rhinestones or glass. But what we're going to talk about next is condition. What is the condition? All right. Is it pristine? I mean, this particular piece, if you look at it, it's really attractive. It's uniform. Okay. It's got a good color. The design is quite nice. It has this attractive little clasp, which when you close it, you can't hardly even tell where the latch is on the outside. It's this tiny little piece right here you push and open. On the bottom, nothing here. Over here you have a single letter N, which I'm sure has to do with the manufacturer, but I don't know who that is. I'll have to look up and see. This is very nice condition. It almost looks like it's never been worn. Okay, so as far as condition is concerned, this scores very high. It also scores high on quality. I mean, overall, the quality is quite nice. Now, the downside about this is that it's not precious metals and it's not precious gemstones. It also may not be terribly rare, although I haven't seen one quite this nice. I'm sure this is designed after ones that are probably made of solid gold or platinum that have actual diamonds in them, but not. So this is still a very attractive piece, and I wouldn't call this high-end. I wouldn't call it low-end either. This is probably right there in the middle someplace. This one, on the other hand, is pretty simple. I mean, this thing is it's a solid piece of metal that has been molded, okay, a certain way, and you could bend it out flat, which is how it would have been made originally, and then they bent it down into place, right? Because it's so bendable and so easy, I already know it's not going to be gold or silver, because gold and silver do not move and are not that flexible that easy. And so, I do my inspection on the inside here. I look around. Nope, nothing in here, nothing to indicate. This is a decent looking piece, but it's not precious metals. It's also not a complicated or difficult piece to manufacture or make. It's one simple design. There are no latches. It is adjustable in the sense that you could bend it down or up, but this is not a high value piece. This is a lower piece of costume jewelry. Not the lowest, because it's not plastic. It still looks okay, right? As far as the condition of it is quite nice. It's not too tarnished or faded. And so it's okay, but it's not, say, the quality of something like this. Much more complicated design, stones that are prong set, and a complicated latch. Something like this right here, it's quite nice looking. And what we're looking at here, folks, is a ring with a bunch of stones. I haven't tested this, so I don't know for a fact, but I would say it's probably garnet based on the color and the look of it, although it's possible that it could be rubies. If you look on the inside, you'll see holes everywhere. That tells me that these are genuine gemstones and not pieces of glass, almost always. On the inside, there's a mark that says 900. And 900 can mean a couple of different things. When it's silver, 900 oftentimes will mean platinum. But in this case, it is an uncommon mark for gold. And so 900 in this case actually stands for right at 21.6 carats. So not quite a 22 karat gold ring, which that's another reason why I'm not quite sure if these are garnet, because garnets are not typically higher end gemstones. They're kind of in the lower category there of quality, but it's still a very beautiful and attractive ring. The design is quite nice, big and bold. The contrast of the darker reds and the light yellow is quite striking. And so I've not seen a piece like this. Again, this is an older design looking piece. The quality is nice. It has precious metal, semi-precious gemstone. I've not come across one that looks like this, so I'd say it's fairly rare. I'm going to say the age is older because it does not fit the current fashion and designs of the day, and the condition is very nice. It's not tarnished. It's not damaged. Okay, and so what we're talking about condition here, folks, we're talking about things like, is this thing pristine? Has it been worn? What's the amount of wear? Is it damaged? Has it been damaged in the past and you can tell that it has been repaired? If it's damaged, would it be worth repairing? Is it worth it to repair it? So this particular piece right here, let me find the other side of it here. Well, that was not the side I wanted. It's this side. Okay, here we go. So we got this kind of claw clasp here. A lot of times on these clasps is where you'll see a mark if it's a precious metal. On this particular piece, it's right here, and it says 14K Italy. Oh my goodness. If I found this for $5 or $10 and it said 14K, I'd be ecstatic. But sometimes you can be fooled. You can see right here, there's some scratch marks right here on the edge. And guess what? Underneath that yellow is a very orangish copper color. Well, guess what, folks? And there's another scratch test we did. This is not solid gold, folks. This is a fake. It's not 14 karat. And so we got a couple of things against it. I mean, it is attractive enough, but again, it's a simple design as far as the actual links in here. It's a pretty customary looking piece with that claw. These are very common, and it's common to see Italy and 14K or other metals on here. But when you test it, you find out that it is not what it says it is. So it's fake. It's trying to be something that it's not. These were made in this style a lot. This is a pretty common looking thing. It'd be great if it was made out of gold. The quality and the condition, it would be quite valuable. But given the fact that it's marked as something that it isn't, it has been tested and disproven. This is just a cheap piece that wasn't made intended to try to fool somebody. Last up, folks, we're going to talk about the final letter in crack, and that would be comps. What is your research going to tell you? After you've decided by inspecting it that you have a good idea of what the quality is of the piece, if it's rare or if it's common, if it's old or if it's new, or if it's unique or not, and if the condition is good quality, good craftsmanship, or simple and cheap. After you've looked at all of those things, take the information that you've gathered from inspecting your piece and then do your research on a platform like eBay or Etsy or auction sites online. And I would recommend you go to more than one site. Don't just rely on one place. Go to multiple places and you'll have a really good idea. When you find certain pieces that have precious metals like these, gold, you're going to find that those sell for quite a bit more than something that has no precious metal or no precious gemstones in them. It's pretty common. Now with costume jewelry, a lot of times certain brands and certain manufacturers sell for more money than ones that are not branded. And someone asked recently, well, are there pieces that aren't branded that are made by good manufacturers, and how can you tell? Well, the answer is yes, there are, but it is very difficult to tell. I would arm yourself with some price guides and some books that talk about the manufacturers that have pieces that are not marked so that you can know when you're going out and looking. All right, we spent a lot of time on jewelry, a lot of time working on crack and seeing its benefits. So let's take a moment here and come over with us and take a look at the first of this big antique store buyout that we're doing right now. All right, folks, here I am with a 20-foot U-Haul truck, and today I'm going to be filling this whole sucker up with antiques. This is the second of 3 buyouts in a week and a half's time, if you can believe it. I committed to buying a woman's jewelry collection, which I started this week. I'm buying a bunch of collectibles in a storage building today with this. Next week I'm coming back to get all the antiques in an entire antique store. Why don't you come with me? Let's see what this looks like. Well, we got her all loaded. Look at this, folks. $3,000 for all of this, and this is about 40% of what I'm buying by next week. Whew, only took an hour with 4 people. Man, we did that in an hour. I'm shocked and amazed. But this was a very large lot. I gotta go back now, and I'm gonna be unloading it all myself today. Am I crazy? I mean, I bought a jewelry collection last week. This is 100 boxes roughly of antiques and collectibles, and then I'm coming back next week to buy an entire antique store. Rusty, what have you got yourself into? But I'm excited. I think it'll be good. So let's get this sucker back to the storage unit. Let's start unloading it and just kind of take a look and see what kinds of things are going to pop in here. All right, we're going to try to fit all this in a 10 by 15 today. And I don't know, you tell me what you think here. Let's clear it all up and take a look. You got to be careful. Man, look at that. That's wonderful. No spillage, nothing. I mean, folks, if I'm able to get this stuff out of here without any damage, anything broken, it will be a major blessing. I'm super excited about it. Got all kinds of artwork under the blankets here. You can see tons of stuff here. And it just gobs goodies. Let's get into it. Oh, man. This is just glorious. All right, I'm bringing stuff in here, but I'll tell you what, folks, the deal here is that with these big buyouts, especially ones that are as rough as this, where I'm getting them out of a big barn or a storage area, I'm expecting that about 10-20% of this stuff is just going to be pitched. Probably 30% of that's going to be donated. And I expect to try to sell 50% of it. You might think, wow, Rusty, that's a lot of work for only 50% of the stuff. Well, if the stuff that's left that will sell is going to be of good value, then it's worth it. But let me just show you with the pieces of artwork I've just brought in, because I think this is a pretty good representation of overall kind of what I'm going to expect with regard to what I'll get rid of and what I'll actually make money on. So right here we have a bunch of pieces of artwork, prints, and other things that are in not great condition. The frames are all not that great, and we also got this little old tool chest that has old horseshoes in it. And I'm just going to put this up on Facebook Marketplace that says $1, and then inside it's going to say, 20 plus old pieces of artwork and an old toolbox, make an offer. And if no one makes an offer, I'm going to offload it for free if someone will come pick it up. That saves me a trip. Then over here is the stuff that I'm going to keep and I'm going to try to resell. We've got some really nice old wooden frames, incredible, in disrepair in some cases. But we got people here at the warehouse that can actually, restore some of this stuff. Some great pieces of an old windows here, other cool stuff. This is probably 30 to 40% of the artwork. And then this percentage I'm getting rid of. And so that's a pretty good example of kind of percentage-wise what I'm going to be working with and what I'm going to try to get rid of and offload as fast as possible. You notice I put this at the front of the storage container. That way, if someone comes, it's easy access. I can move it out, and then I can fill that spot again with stuff that I get at a later time. Whew, this is a big one. Oh my, folks, back breaking work here. This is what I got so far. Man, a whole lot more glass and ceramics than I was hoping for. Picture stuff, a variety of ceramics, knickknacks, odds and ends, every kind of glassware you can imagine. Lots of brass and copper things, silver plate, and what have you, old plates, this and that. But anyways, you're about, I would say, 70% of the way through it here. This is what we got left there. Shoot, folks, I'm tired. Well, there she is, folks. My goodness gracious, I am exhausted. I'm utterly exhausted. I mean, why couldn't one of you come out here and help me? Shoot, I mean, what's the point in having a channel piece and people watch if no one's gonna... I'm just joking, folks. Goodness gracious, what have I done? Well, I've emptied that suckers for one thing. Oh my goodness. Well, gotta get back to the warehouse It looks worse than it is, folks. A lot of this is empty boxes and trash, junk I need to get rid of in the front here, but I got to come back with another vehicle to empty that later. I'm just pooped, so I'm gonna stop now. There are a handful, let's call it 5 or 6 boxes in the very front, plus this artwork on the side that I'm gonna get out first. That's gonna be the stuff I sell, and I think I can make my investment back off of all this, off of those things. Everything else can be sold. Depending on how I feel, I can either sell it to somebody else, I can have them come and take the whole lot and make one big sale and move on, or I could piece it out. Time will tell. All right, cousins, now we're back here in one of the rooms of the warehouse, and what I did was I just grabbed 3 or 4 tubs worth of some things here in order for me to start to list some of this stuff in this big lot. You can see we've got a variety of glassware, ceramics. We've got this little thing, I can't remember what they call this. It's a big, you know, kind of like a tube type thing that you can lay over, put on top of things to cover them. And we've got a variety of things like old piano music over here. We've got some bowls. This is like a McCoy bowl. We got a false graph pink bowl there. Got this green glass. It's like an oil lamp stand. We got some down there. We got some duck decoys and various vases and stuff. A lot of different things in here, folks. We just sort of put it in here to try to transport it. We'll get them out, clean them up, and then we'll get to listing. But I wanted to really get in and show you what I'm going to start off with first, and that is this. Not the Lancer's Dinner Wine from 1975, which has yet to be opened. Maybe Peaches and I will give that a go tonight during dinner, of course, but probably not because we might die. But here we go. This is the largest collection of antique vintage mason jars, ball mason jars that I've ever come across. And someone has clearly worked really hard to collect these, but they've also gone through and they have noted exactly what kind they are. So this, when it says number 15, you turn it over and voila, number 15. I don't know enough about, I had to do some research about why they numbered them, because these all seem roughly similar in size. But it could be that this was denoting a specific time period that they were made. I don't know. You can see this one's got, it's different because it's got lines. You know, they say lines. On the bottom, it has a 0 with a line under it and all these circles. That's pretty unique. These other ones don't have that. These others are just simply regular ones with numbers on the bottoms, but they all have their, except for this one, all of them except for that one have their original lids, which is incredible as well. And we're talking like early 1900s, folks, in some cases late 1800s. Here's a 2. You can see that big old bubble in there, the glass, back when they weren't, you know, still kind of working out how to do the glasswork stuff. This is an interesting one here. It says Atlas strong shoulder mason jar, and that sucker's a number 8. But then if I set that over here, we got 3 like this here, which are the ideal, and they have the glass tops instead of the screw-on zinc ones, and you've got this little contraption here that kind of seals it over, the little metal hinge portion, which is nice. And you can see that this one is a number 10, it says, I believe. I don't know. You can see this has kind of got like ridges on the top, and it's a little bit flatter, whereas this one also has some ridges, but it's more on the top and it's more bold over, you can see. And on the bottom it says number 1. Really cool. These guys, folks, if you get really old ones, really unique ones, they can sell in the hundreds of dollars. My guess is on the low end, I'm going to get about $50 per one of these, closer to maybe $80 or $100 on some of them. I've got 28 of them here. So I would expect this lot, if sold individually, to bring at least $2,000, possibly more than that, which is nice because I spent $3,000 on the lot that I showed you earlier that fills up a 10 by 15 storage unit. After I get those all listed, these other ones are the ones I'm going to be doing today. They're all kind of different. We've got a really old, very heavy Aqua Dr. Pepper bottle. We have an older New Grape bottle. and this one's even older than that one. You can see the size. It's shorter, it's heavier, and this is more of a green glass. Also, a new grape soda. Oh my goodness, Rusty, what are you doing? Then right here we have this Cliquot Club. It says since 1881. It's the Clico. It's like a drink, a soda, I think. And then, of course, you got the Moxie bottle. And I like this one because, you know, the labels is coming off, unfortunately, but I love it says it's embossed on there, Moxie. It's also kind of a green bottle. It's got the cap still on it. Really nice as far as jars and bottles go. We're still on glass here, but we're moving to something a little bit different. These are intended for vessels for preserves to like canned goods. The others were drinks that were disposed of once the drink was gone. But then now we got some vases. This type of a vase that has this particular type of a top where it comes up in little, almost like little fingers, and a lot of times they'll fan out maybe a little bit more like this, is called a swung vase. SWUNG, swung vase. And these are really hot right now. These are really selling well. This would be considered like a mid-century modern type thing. This is screaming 1960s with this orange kind of color, and you can see the top there. You've probably passed these at thrift stores and maybe didn't even know what they were or that they would have value, but they do, folks. Certain colors specifically. I like this one because at the bottom it's kind of almost like an orange swirl, like a creamsicle color here at the bottom, and then a bright orange. It's quite tall. I wouldn't be surprised to get $100 or more for this. And this is the kind of thing at thrift stores you can often pick up for $5 or less. And then this, I'm not sure what this will bring yet, but I'm going to bring it down here so you can kind of see it's a nice pink color. This is probably like an artist-made vase. All the bubbles in it, you can see that it's connected here to this more clear base down here. It's a little bit off-center. If you look at it, if you move it, you can see that it's kind of more, see, it's hanging off to the left here. If you turn it around this way, it's hanging off to the right over there a little bit. So they didn't get it perfectly set, but that's all right. This is a very large piece, and I think it needs some cleaning, but I think it could be quite nice if we get it all, you know, fixed up for the photos. Lastly, I was surprised to pull this sucker out of all these other types of antiques, because this is not antique, but it is collectible, and it is something I can sell. Pulling these up right here, you may or may not know what you're looking at. This is a later on iteration of the Polly Pockets. And so if you open this puppy up and you start fiddling around in here, like for example with this, I think it even says it. Yeah, there you go, Polly Pocket. And you open up this little wardrobe here to reveal all these little dresses and wardrobe items. And then down in here, of course, you've got a bunch more accessories, which is amazing, plus all of these other little accessories and play things that go with them. This is probably like a variety of sets that are all kind of going together. Now, this is, like I said, a later on iteration. Polly Pocket's been around since like the 1980s, maybe even as early as the 70s, but I think definitely early on in the 80s, and the ones that bring the most value are actually the ones that are called the Bluebird ones, which are earlier on. They're small. The little Polly Pockets are basically the length of my thumbnail here, right? And they just fold over in the middle at their waist. So they don't have a bunch of limbs that move. They're in a little contraption. Usually it's like a round, or it can be different shapes, but they open up and then there's like a tiny little figure inside of there. Those were fun. Kids played with them back in the day, and now they're highly collectible from that era. So take a look. If you see some, you might even have some left over in your closet or in your attic or basement from when you were a kid. Go find those things, folks. They can bring really good money. Well, folks, it's been an incredible day here, and we're so glad you joined us. Folks, keep crack in mind, okay? Just think of all the benefits that it can bring you in your life and your business if you use it on a regular basis like I do. It's really helped me out, and but just don't forget to do your research as well. Remember, that's the last part of crack, is doing some research. So anyhow, hope it helps you out, guys. Hope that those tips might become useful for you in your work and your reselling, and we wish you luck. Come back soon and you can see more of what what we're getting into with this big old antique store.
Rusty, Rusty, Rusty have to. Rusty, Rusty, Rusty have to. Rusty, Rusty, Rusty have to. Rusty, Rusty.